Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to some more game dev. Coming back for stream number 2 today. Earlier today we streamed some progress on this particular room, mostly setting up its cutscene so that when we pick up this mace it will advance time. Although just before starting stream I did run into an issue where something has broken and I don't know what yet because I literally just seen this. I just saw this. Seen this? I just saw this and felt like might as well go live and see if we can figure out what did I do in between streams. I did do a little bit of work off camera, so it could be related, but this does look somewhat odd to me. It looks like it's trying to check if a specific flag is valid, but not finding that flag. Oh, I know what it is. I was moving this scene into a new location, and I bet you this is now no longer found, is what's going on. We have moved this to the proper folder, and that's probably all that's going on there. Okay, so now with that out of the way, where are we at? Well, okay, two things I want to call out. Number one, when we did the stream earlier today, near the end, we ran into an odd bug. Still a problem. Okay, never mind. Something's still wrong here. Object not set to a valid. It's something on a tile. One of the tiles is trying to see whether or not its flags are valid. This is in the load. I'm going to guess this is something to do with loading, yeah, the interactable. So something's still wrong with this data. Somewhere else we have the wrong information. Here it's now changed to the G7 room, and this should also be the correct trigger. There's no other required flags. Is something wrong internally? No, that looks correct. Let's try just moving something slightly and resaving to see if maybe it just needs to regenerate. It's also possible that it's holding on to some bad data. We could look into that as a potential problem. Maybe it's not clearing all of the tile data for these flags. Still a problem. We don't know which tile it is though, so it could be something in one of these. Or this is looking for Adventurer Lost. This is looking for Adventurer Lost. So it's not going to be one of those. Ah, could it be in here? No, not this one either. Nope, there it is. This one is requiring you have picked up the mace in order for this bridge to be breakable. Which, in theory, I could be checking to see if you have the ability unlocked as a different way of doing that, but that's fine. Okay, I've both paused and played. I'm gonna just clear, try this one more time from the beginning. Good. Are we on Twitch? Unlockable characters given. Yeah, we're fine. Never mind. I see it. I see you, Twitch chat. We're fine. I do not have YouTube chat up, though. I will fix that. Not that YouTube chat tends to be the chattiest. Oh, this is fun. I also need to disable some of my debugging. So I do have a system that like checks the tiles as we like search outwards, and I was using this to determine what was happening when it was searching across the board, and you can see that it like basically, you know, spreads outwards. What I found though was the reason this wasn't working when we had added the make sure that a tile is walkable is I had forgotten that when a tile is not revealed, it sends back a message saying that it is basically a pit, an area that is non-traversable. And so that's been a bug for a while, so I've kind of decided to make a more broad fix for this. So inside of the tile type for, let's see if we can find the navigate to tile. Navigate to tile. So inside of this class, when we added this, make sure the tile you're trying to walk to when searching the board for a path to get to this tile, when checking to see whether or not this is walkable, it would come back with pit for this value. I've now added a unrevealed as a new type of tile type. So instead of treating tiles that are not revealed as pit, we now treat them as unrevealed. And then I also do not just send back unrevealed, I send it back unrevealed with whatever its actual tile types are. And this has fixed the bug where now we can navigate into spaces where the player has not visited yet during cutscenes. So Hero can navigate to this tile, which is technically unrevealed, and it is working correctly. So that's what that bug was from the end of the last stream. Let's turn off the blue searching stuff. Helpful, but not needed anymore. So if we go into the search call, right now I've just been commenting out this chunk of code. I really should set it up to be like a toggle of some kind, even just a bool that I can set to be true or false, rather than just commenting and uncommenting it. But for now, it's fine. We don't usually need to check the search logic that often. It's usually pretty obvious what's broken, but for whatever reason, this one here, I was just having a bit of a blank on what the issue was. Okay, so that being the case, the other thing I looked at was I moved, as we've already seen from the bug earlier, I've moved this cutscene to be in the correct folder, but we were also looking at trying to tag the cutscenes with a asset tag so that we could more easily search them, but without the folder structure in here, it kind of is difficult to find the one I'm looking for. And I was trying to see if there was a better way to do that. I did a little bit of Googling and I found that we can also just open a specific folder directory with a button click as well. So I feel like this is going to solve most of our problems. If we take a look at folder selector, I've copied our grid selector for loading up all our scenes, and this one is basically just given a folder path trying to open that folder. So given this folder path, it is focusing the project window and then load asset by path, so finding that folder and then setting the selection to that active object. And that seems to work well enough for me. So I was having trouble finding stuff and scrolling up and down and just not being sure where we were. This is just going to make it quicker to be like, oh, we're in the cutscene section, and being able to go track down the specific folder we need. So happy with those two changes in between stream. For now, from this point, we're going to continue building, I think. So if we go back to the very top up here, and we set this back to before Mace and have our spawn point be from the east side of the map, which is up over here, we'll be able to walk in here and pick up this mace. And I think we had the pickup, the send back to the Goddess Realm, and the return all hooked up right before we ended the stream. All right, try that one more time. Once we finish this cutscene, we're getting close to the point where the game's going to open up. I've been debating how much I want to let players deviate from the core path, and it's still something I'm thinking a fair amount about, but once we get past this final section, I think I'm going to be much more I'm going to try and make things a little bit more open-ended. Right now it is very linear. And once we get past these next like 2 or 3 cutscenes, it'll finally start to branch, hopefully. So we get this little bit of cutscene. Goddess sends us back. And we have a little bit of follow-up once we hit the ground. And then at this point, we're essentially moving forward into that final fight. At this point, players can also finally fight this enemy if they want. They should have enough... they should have enough power with slash and bash to be able to do it. In fact, even with just slash, they should be able to fight that enemy, but it will end up taking a lot of their experience. And then we can put this down and come over here and hopefully fight the enemy. Now, we do need to set up a new flag preset because this one isn't going to work for us because it has the adventurer already set to lost, as well as we want to flag some of those other ones as complete. Where did it copy and paste that to? Did it not? I guess it just didn't. Okay, copy and paste, and then we're going to do after mace is what we'll call this one. I guess technically it's a hammer is what Drixie built, but it's fine. So we're going to get rid of Adventurer Lost, but we do want to make it so we have completed this cutscene. So we're going to add that to the debug complete list. And we also want to complete the one in the Goddess Realm, so we can go cutscenes, Goddess Realm Chapter 1, first timeout. And this ID is the ID for the actual cutscene. Then we can go back to our flag presets after mace and set this one to complete. And then we also want to do the landing. I can also anchor this and then go cutscenes, F8, landing 3. Grab that and set that to complete as well. And if we go back to our starting scene and say set the preset here to after mace, this should be the same as loading into this run, or loading in after we had failed to save the adventurer. I agree, unlockable characters. A hammer is just a thick mace. Alright. We have some errors. Invalid operation. Oh, I hit the B button while we were loading in. Interesting. Didn't break the game though. And if we have been copying forward good assets, none of these cutscenes should be triggering here either, and that's good. And we can either fight this slime or we can walk around it. Either way works. Now, the one problem we have with using these debug assets is that when we load in some of these rooms, we don't have the exact tiles. We don't have the exact tiles that we should. Because we're not really, these aren't like save states. They're essentially like They're very loose, like, representations of the player's experience at that point. Oh, if this is also after mace, we should also do... it's bash is the actual ability that we unlock. We should have that at this point as well. Okay, good. I can see that that's loaded. I think I want to just make it so this map is loaded by default for testing purposes today. And if we were to load into this one with after mace coming from the south, that would allow us to skip 2 rooms of content. And it wouldn't be unrealistic that you might have revealed this whole map before picking up the mace. So I think this is a fair state to be in. Maybe that's something we might want to add in here to our debug lists for these debug flag scriptable objects, which are very becoming like almost like pseudo save states. But maybe we might want to have a list of scenes that we want to have set as fully revealed. If we fight this, it does start the fight. Okay, cool. We want to set slash to completed as well, because that cutscene keeps triggering. What is that cutscene's name? Let me... Design data is probably going to be the easiest spot to check. Flag. This is it. We're going to add this one to be completed, which is the cutscene that we keep seeing every time we perform a slash attack. We also want to do that before mace as well. Technically, in this state, you would have also have completed that cutscene. Okay. Now, this one's tricky. How do we want to set this one up? When we come in here, we should be at a point now where we can knock down this stump. Again, I'm going to be very hand-holdy with the player, which I don't love, but I also don't want them wasting their own time running around doing stuff that is not helping them and potentially just, again, wasting their time. So I think we want to set up a lock here that prevents the player from exiting the map, so that they have to wander around here. And maybe we set up another one that prevents them from exiting here, just so that they know they're in the right spot. That one might be a little too heavy-handed, but I would like to put one here to prevent you from exiting. The boar is attacking with a parry out of the combat loop, just on its own. It's queuing up a non-blocking action. We'll need to get the adventurer doing a parry animation. I'm going to look at potentially getting one of those in relatively soon, because Drixie's been working on modeling the character that we'll use for this one in Blender, and then we'll convert that model into Pixel once we get some more animations for it. So we should get that parry relatively soon, as well as the actual correct character. When we knock over this, though, I don't think I want the boar to immediately enter into combat. I think when we come over to here and we step on this point, I think we would like to trigger some sort of cutscene where the boar charges over to hero. Yeah, that's what I want to do. All right, let's set that up. So let's start with the easier one, which is the preventing the player from exit. Let's do woods. This is what we're in G7. Yeah, G7. So we're going to go room G7. We're going to have prevent. Oh, we have a couple of prevent exits already. Should we be just adding the room name in here? I don't know. Prevent exit. Save adventurer. That is not a name that we have yet. It doesn't look like. Okay, so we'll go with save adventurer. Set that as default. We will make this a end of turn. Right? That's what we do for these. Prevent exits. Yeah, end of turn. This will require the mace, I believe. So if we go to mace pickup, I think we don't want to do this unless you are in the state where you have already picked up the mace. It'll be repeatable, but it'll need to be gated on happening in the future by not this one, but whatever the next one will be. We're building these in the wrong order then a little bit. We'll do hero, we'll do top right, I think. I need to save her. Save the adventurer. Just some placeholder dialogue. We can do medium, say close self after done. This looks fine for now. Yes, create sequence. Cool. And then the actual movement part will be cutscene, navigate to tile, and we will be navigating. Oh, actually, even easier. Because we're gonna have this navigate from 2 different spots. We'll want to do cutscene, navigate in direction, and we'll want to navigate west, I believe. Player. We can leave that as -1. And this should probably be blocking. Sure. Trapped Adventurer can be used as a template. We'll copy this, paste it, bring it over here onto 1712 and 1713. Actually, let's rename this one first. Save Adventurer. Okay, and then this will get this trigger name. And move it over here. Cool. I think we should be able to test that one immediately, and it should work, hopefully. And then we'll set up another one on 9.6. We won't have to have multiple tiles for that one because we know that the player will be crossing a 1-wide bridge. Can we get away with a small on that one? Try small. I don't mind that. I'm just going to quickly check center. I think I like center a little bit more. You know what? I like top left even more. The other thing that's worth checking is... Can we swap these? Do these work in real time? They do. I don't think I've ever considered that aspect of this either. The fact that we can edit at least repeatable cutscenes. I'm not sure whether or not I like the move being before or after. I think I like it after. And then from this spot, I think I still like this the most. I'm going to keep it centered. Okay, cool. So that's working. I'm going to try it from both spots. Yeah. And I can't like hold the button through or anything like that. No, if I just hold the button, I just get kicked right back out. And I can't tap the button through either. Cool. So now we want to grab this one. This goes over here on 9.6. And we need another new cutscene. This one has a lot of dialogue. Let me bring up my notes. Potentially too much dialogue. This one has... Oh, it's only 5 pieces. Okay. This is Adventurer, right? Trapped Adventurer. If we look at the dialogue asset, this one here, Adventurer 001. So we'll have hero speak, hero, adventurer, then hero, then adventurer, and adventurer. Okay, and then let's see, what do we got here? We got... Oh, interesting. The first line of dialogue I had here was actually about hero mentioning using the mace to break the stump. I may or may not want this line. I think I'm going to change this one. We may have an initial cutscene to try and guide the player if we see playtest feedback that it's not readable, but I've also been thinking lately that I might want to have some sort of like little sparkle or something on interactables to try and help draw the player's eye to them, some sort of indicator to things that can be interacted with so that the player doesn't have to walk around trying to select everything in the map. And I think a indicator on here that appears when you come back will hopefully be enough of a guide for the player. So that being said, I think this line should instead be... Yeah, because I was thinking the hero would walk over, we prompt the player to hit a button, knock the stump over, and then the boar would charge, was my thought. Because the next line we have is the boar is preparing to charge, use your shield. And I think this line, if it's not about knocking over the stump, I think it's hero calling out. Sure. A placeholder, this will be some sort of call to the adventurer. I don't know what that dialogue line is right now, but that's okay. And then the adventurer will warn hero that the boar is going to charge and to use the shield. Hero will mention that they don't have a shield. And then I think the adventurer is going to skedaddle, is my thought. We'll see how this goes, though. That seems good. Non-repeatable. Everything else here seems fine. Rough pass on positioning. I'm going to say heroes on the left side. Probably wants to do... Let's see here. Close self. Indicate the boar is going to charge. I don't know how I'm going to force combat here, actually. Okay, I might have to think about this in motion. But let's go, say, top center. We'll do adventurer will be bottom center for now. And then hero will be top center again. Adventurer will go with, I think, right of center and right of center at this point. In terms of ordering, close self. I think this can be stay open, close all. And then I think these can be stay open and close self as a rough first pass. I imagine as I start getting motion in here, this may not hold up. This can be a small and this can be a small. Okay, cool. Let's say that's good. Let's actually create the assets. So create cutscene. Oh, save adventurer was already a thing. This failed. Did I properly make this? I did properly make this. If it finds either of the things, it just says, nope, not doing that. Good job, me. Okay, cool. So then this becomes boar alerted, set default trigger, create sequence. This will Yeah, this will require mace pickup, because otherwise if you step on this tile on the other side of the river, it would trigger the cutscene in the previous run. So we'll still need that. I'm also going to make sure that the Save Adventurer one also gets this as a required flag, that Boar Alerted is not started. I think that's okay. Yeah, because once you get into this situation, I think you're locked in. So once you've started this, you'll never be able to do this cutscene again, because you'll never get into a situation where I want you to trigger this. Yeah, this is all fine. Okay, so then Boar Alerted has just dialogue in it. Actually, I think I was thinking there was going to be a problem here, because we need to show the alert icon for the player, or for the enemy, when it switches to combat with you. But I think we actually handled this now. So if we go call set entity, what is this? This is going to be some sort of enemy spawn. Yeah, let's do boar spawn. Let's be more specific, and we will not add the symboling index to this. And then inside of here, we will have boar spawn container, which is going to be the actual prefab that gets generated. We will set its attack state. And then from there, we want to grab a sequence step for... Oh, does it not do what I thought it does? We have this clear response. Do we have one that actually plays responses? Clear response sequence step. This just clears it, right? Oh, I want to check this. Yeah, we have a clear response. We have one for spawning the enemy, but I want this functionality. I want this functionality as its own sequence step. Do I embed it in this one, or do I make a different one? Because this is technically already doing this. Yeah, this is just getting the sequence steps and immediately playing them. I think these are similar enough that this can just be a subtype of this one. Yeah, I like this. Because if I get too many sequence steps, at some point it starts to be unwieldy. So we want to compress in some situations, but also keep flexibility. But this one's literally just already doing the functionality I want. It's just a question of whether or not we execute it. So if we do... do clear only, which can be equal to false by default. We will get a list of sequence steps and add it to this range. We will need to make this a sequence. And we will just decide whether or not we're going to yield return. Actually, we can make this blocking, or add the blocking functionality to it. Steal these 2 lines of code. And we can have it be blocking by default as false. And then the only thing here is if we are clear only, we can just return, I think. It doesn't like me doing a return that way. That's fine. Okay, fine. We'll do it this way. If not clear only, invoke the results. And we want to make sure that this is of the type that the player, or that I have specified as the designer. And we probably want a variation of this that takes the bool. And I'm going to add an extra tooltip here because I do think this is still kind of confusingly written. I can see myself getting confused in the future. Get sequence steps, or how do I say this? Get ability response, but do not play it. Get and clear ability responses, but do not run them. Cool. I've not added a tooltip in this way. This should be fine though. Normally tooltips are not on sequence objects. We'll see what happens. Okay, so then boar alerted. After we trigger it to go into the attack state, we can do Q response, blocking, end of turn responses, and this will not be clear only. I got that wrong. We want this to be true by default, and I have opened Unity so it has already updated the responses. What other location did we need to have this in? Oh, we are dropping frames. Looks like it's returning normal. Weird. All right, we'll see if that keeps up. I don't remember what other asset had a ability response. I've not been really keeping up with the color coding of these, but in this particular situation, trigger cutscene. Oh, we just had that open actually. I want to have this have the same color as trigger cutscene because it's kind of like inserting sequences, and I feel like the blue teal that I use for that would be nice as a nice little reminder. This is adding a bunch of content potentially into the flow. Yeah, cool. And this now goes correctly. I feel like the was it in H8 when we were dealing with this first slime? No, I did this work off camera. The one I'm thinking of was definitely a on-camera situation where we needed the clear the queue. Oh, it's the other slime, isn't it? It's F7. Yeah, clear only. Perfect. I guess because I hadn't opened the asset, it hadn't defaulted to the... and it doesn't matter. Point is that's in a good state. So then Boar alerted will now tell the enemy to attack. We will queue the responses for end of turn, and it won't be clear only, so it will actually get the like alert icon that this attack state switching will put into the queue, and then have it play immediately. And then I think the grid will appear, and I think the HUD. Then we will get the adventurer telling us the boar is preparing to charge. Ooh, I want to also change the facing of the enemy at the same time. Can I use the cutscene one now? Set single units facing. And we will do boar spawn container face south, so it'll look towards the player. We didn't actually change out the cutscene that it's trying to play. That's funny. So this now needs to be this one. Boar alerted. Updating the name mostly just for readability at a glance. This has 4 cutscenes in this one room. Interesting. The enemy had queued up a playful attack at the exact moment that I stepped on that final tile. That means we're going to need to clear any enemy behaviors that have been set up on the same turn as the player stepping on this cutscene. Yeah, we can do that. We're just going to have to write some new code. That's okay. So then I'm going to have... couple of changes here. I'm going to change the players facing first, then cue the response. I also kind of want to navigate the boar to a new location. So probably change facing. And then add a small delay of like 0.4. Then navigate the boar to like 9,9. Boar container. Make that blocking. Then switch to attack. Cue the response. Comment about the boar. I don't have a shield. And then I'm going to have the adventurer navigate to tile end facing. Navigate the adventurer to 9, 10 behind the boar. And this will be adventurer container. Facing will be south. We'll move to 910. No shield with a boar population exploding, and then another navigate to tile and facing, and 7, 10 south. Let's go east. So then the adventurer will move up to here. Could almost be even further. And then one final navigate. Navigate to tile. Don't need the facing part of it. And the adventurer will just navigate to... a tile that is not on the map. But it is technically on the map. I think it's not labeled, but I believe the adventurer should be able to go to what should be 010 to leave. Let's see how this works. We are dropping frames again. We might need to call it a bit early. That's unfortunate. Zoom in for this. Okay, that's kind of working, but also kind of not. Let's do a couple of things. Number one, we'll have the boar move closer so that she's not moving right next to the boar. And then we'll do... boar faces south. Boar navigates to 9-8. Depending on how the boar moves, this should actually be a navigate and facing. Because the boar might take a path that ends with it not looking the right way. So we'll do that. We'll do the attack. We'll cue the response for it. We will advance dialogue. I think we need to change hero's call of I don't have a shield to close other. I want to try that. And then this one has to close self and then close self. Actually, this, I think hero would still be open at this point, so we'll do close all. If that's the case, that feels weird. Maybe this should just be close all. Close self, stay open, close all. Yeah, that seems right. I think I want one more line of response from Hero in here. Yeah, we're still dropping frames. What does YouTube and Twitch think? They're both saying it's fine, so maybe OBS is just lying to me a little bit? Oh, I'm getting the positions wrong on some of this. We want to be facing south here with the boar, south, south. Oh, we also want heroes facing being changed, so we're going to do a cutscene, single unit direction. Okay. We're going to have hero change facing at the beginning as well. So this will be player facing north before calling out. Cross. I think I want the adventurer to change facing on this dialogue. Okay. So a couple of small things, but otherwise I think that's working about as I want it to. The dialogue here, this one is too long. I think that might need to be a large, or I need to split it into two halves. I feel like this facing feels weird to me. I feel like she should continue to face south. And we want to add a set single units facing, and we're gonna have the adventurer 001 container face south before speaking. I also kind of want just a couple of small delays in here, which feels a bit odd, but would be nice. We are getting to the point where it is starting to slow down a little bit. So before speaking, we're just going to add like a literal, like almost non-existent delay, but I just want a little bit. And I think I'm going to do the same thing here for the adventurer. Just a small delay to just let the facing change read a little bit more. I want to change her call here. This should be right of center. No, that's going off the screen. Bottom left. Bottom center. No. Top left? No, that definitely doesn't work. I don't think this could get away with being a small. I think it has to be bottom left here. I'm going to break this one into 2 lines. Yeah, we're going to duplicate this one. And we're going to do sorry ... And then ... but this can be stay open. The positioning can all remain the same. And we will just add an additional line here. And I don't think she moves or anything. It's just like... Maybe I've not done this a bunch, but would it make sense to have a small delay? We'll have to add another advanced dialogue step, but I kind of like the idea of her almost thinking. Oh, no, wait. Does that work? I'm not sure if this works. Because it'll be stay open. I actually have no idea what the effect here is. Oh no, it's non-existent, because if it stays open and I add a delay before the advancement, it's just going to be that you hit A and then nothing happens. And after a few moments, the dialogue advances on its own. I'm still going to try it. Again, I hit some buttons before we were technically loaded. That's interesting that the screen controller tries to process information when the game hasn't been loaded fully. I might want to add a couple of checks there to prevent that. So you can't spam buttons during the load screen. Cool. I think that works a little bit better. I don't know if this delay is doing anything. I'm going to leave it. It just makes the game feel unresponsive, I think, though. But I'm going to get some feedback and see what other people think. The question now is, after that cutscene, what happens with the boar? And I think I might need to do some enemy behavior work. I think I want the boar to have an actual charge ability, where it like runs forward and tries to like hit the enemy. I think I want the boar to run forward and try and hit the enemy, and if you move out of the way, you can actually like dodge its attacks. But I want to also have it set up in such a way that there's no way to get away from this boar. Yeah. We need to do some enemy behavioral work. I guess I can get away with that later. Because whatever behavior I set up for the boar is how I actually want it to fight when you get to them normally. Like at this point, you don't have your shield, and I want the shield to be like kind of a crucial ability to parrying them, which will be part of how you do a large amount of stagger damage to them and make them weak. And I also want your stats to be quite low in comparison to the boar. And then as you upgrade the Omni weapon and grow and increase your stats, the boar will become much more fightable. But I kind of want to establish that the player has to like essentially go over to this scene and knock this stump over, and then head to this new checkpoint location, at which point they'll be able to enter into this area and go north or south, and the game kind of lets the player kind of do more at that point. But I want this fight to have the player fail, and obviously fail. Like, no, you cannot defeat this boar. But again, I think in order to really figure out what the boar's actions are here and how it behaves, I'm going to want to figure out how you fight it normally and just have it be a difficult fight without the tools, the skills you need to get it to be staggered and low stats. Okay, so that being said, let's move on. It kills the player right now. I don't think there's a way to escape it, like, because of the attack of opportunity and the chase logic it currently has. It's probably fine. So what happens after this? We have finished this fight. Boar alerted will be done, and we'll need a new cutscene in the goddess realm of the goddess explaining that we're probably going to need to get a shield, kind of reinforcing what is already being said in that dialogue. So let's do Goddess Realm, Chapter 1, defeated by Boar. Yes, this will be, actually it's an intro, end of type Goddess Realm, not end of turn. It will not be repeatable, and it will require that you have Boar alerted completed in order for this to be a viable option. We'll also bring down its priority level. It shouldn't be possible to get here without having hit the other ones, but just in case. And then at this point, what is my notes for this? We want hero, medium dialogue, bottom center. Gonna reset this back. Stay open. Close this one. Goddess. Looks like you're going to need a shield to defeat that boar. Medium, stay open. Top center. Next one. Oh, no. Undo? Does undo work? It doesn't look like undo works. Shoot. Minimize. +1. Oh no, this is another making more work for myself. Then hero. Bottom center. And then finally, one more line from the goddess. Okay, this is what my notes have. I think I haven't got around to updating it, but I would like to potentially make this into the scene where you also unlock your skill tree, because we've kind of taken that away because we just haven't had room to fit it in. But I think I'd like to change the setting here. So instead of, or like the goals, the goal of this cutscene originally was to introduce the concept, or really hammer home the concept, that you're going to need the shield in order to be able to defeat that boar and save the adventurer, and to allude to the fact that in that dialogue she mentioned a party and the goddess kind of saying maybe you could go find a shield from them. And then a little bit of a promise or a little bit of progress on like the dungeon, and being like, well, what about this dungeon we're supposed to be saving that you called out at the beginning? And the goddess saying maybe we can do both. I'm not sure how to tweak this on camera right now, but I feel like we could also try and find a way to have the goddess mention the fact that hero needs to get stronger, and maybe using the Omni weapon to grow would be better. Because what was the original Omni weapon dialogue? What was this? This is really straightforward. Hero, your control over the Omni weapon is growing. You can now increase your stats and unlock abilities. If you head to the scrying pool, you'll be able to reflect on your progress. Yeah, so... what if we just trigger this one? Like, what if we currently have this set up to not be able to be triggered? What if we made this a none typed, gave it its ID as its adventurer name, or as its trigger name, get rid of require first level up, leave everything else the same here, update the JSON, and then when we create this one, which we have not done yet, what did I mess up? Ah, well then, I did not add the underscore. Okay, that created it in the right spot now. We're going to delete this folder. And then I think we need to update the JSON file because it's going to technically make an extra copy that we don't want. 1 second, chat. Chat, we have returned. I am sorry for that. Had to step away for a second. Okay, so we have this cutscene. I was updating in here. We're going to have the wrong version at the bottom. Yes, this one is the incorrect folder path, so we'll delete that one and get that out of there. Because the system right now does not do a full clear on those. If I make a incorrect cutscene, I do need to manually remove it. Okay, cool. So then we should see this one exists. It does. And if we just add, for the time being, a trigger cutscene and do trigger name of this, tack this on here. And then we're just going to add one extra line of dialogue here. Stay open, and then this one just gets 2 entries at the end. Cool. Let's see if that works. So now we should go back to the Goddess Realm. We should get the defeated by Boar cutscene It's just dialogue, no extra stuff, and then we'll get the skill tree unlock kind of disconnectedly joined at the end. I think I need to think about rewriting this one. Like maybe there's like a walk and talk that we can do there in the goddess realm where the goddess like chats about this. I don't know. I might want to rewrite that whole section based off of how this has gone. And the adventurer is heartless, which is what I'm going for now. And we get one shot by the boar. Cool. Please work. Forgot to set that last one. The setting of the tiles did not work. Odd. Let's fix that position. This should be top center for this final one. Why did it not load or reveal the tiles correctly? Let's go back to the Goddess Realm. If we just hit play here, I think it should now trigger defeated by boar. Oh no, because it requires the cutscene be completed. So we can make a new entry for testing this. So if we come into here, copy after mace, after boar defeat. Actually, that could be implied that we have defeated the boar, defeated by boar. Okay, and then this one will have the extra flag for locking this in place. Cutscenes. We want the G7 boar alerted cutscene is completed. Okay. Now if we come in here and hit play, hopefully we get the boar cutscene. And we can try and figure out why the revealing isn't working. No, did not trigger. Oh, because we didn't set it up. We need to actually drag that value in here. So defeated by boar is now the preset for this, and make sure it is enabled. Good. Now we should get that cutscene, I believe. Okay, now we're getting this cutscene. Good. Yeah, the reveal stuff broke. I feel like it's like 4 steps forward, 1 step back. Like we're definitely making a ton of progress relatively quickly, but I keep running into these types of small issues, which is just like, why? Is it because I'm triggering it as another cutscene that now this is no longer working? Revealed tile sequence step. We did mess with this, didn't we? Maybe it's somehow broken from the modification we made there earlier today. I'm just going to have to debug and find out. Just going to have to debug and find out. All right, so... we get the initial cutscene discussing getting defeated by the boar. Here, tiles is set to 2. So it did find the 2 tiles. Reveal delay of 0.2, that's fine. It's going to come into here. It's going to check to make sure reveal... It is not revealed. Not in progress. It's also going to validate the flags. Oh, interesting. I did not realize we had put that on there. Okay. So the cutscene required that you had had your first level up, but I didn't realize I also added it to these reveal locks. And because these are not set to be true, it won't let it open. So we want to have boar alerted be the new flag that's blocking these. Boar alerted. Boar alerted. I mean, that's just data. Like, it's not even a bug as much as like I modified the data, but I didn't modify it everywhere. It is unfortunate they're set up in different locations though. Like, it'd be nice if the cutscene was somehow setting some information on these things, but it would be more of a hassle. So what I'm doing feels right. It feels like the right way to do it. It just means that it's easy to forget one small step, but it didn't take me long to figure out. Just wish I had more debug information to make this stuff more clear. Well, we missed it because of the debugger, but... well, this also probably means that we have to modify... yeah, this one. This overrides the walkable data for this to be pit unless we have boar alerted. Oh, tricky, actually. We can't... the other ones are checking to see if the first ability level up is not started. Actually, I guess it's the same setup. Yeah, if we haven't done that cutscene, these are pits. And if we have done these cutscenes, these default to their natural state, which is walkable. Okay, cool. No, that makes sense. Yeah, multiple spots where these flags are used. I guess, okay, here's a better way to do it. We could set up a special flag. Right now, those tiles are using a, like, metric flag to say, like, once you've unlocked your first ability, open up. But I guess a cleaner way to do this could be to make a unique flag that's, like, skills unlocked or something like that. And this cutscene that reveals them could set that flag. Okay, cool. So, not the most elegant, but it does let us gain access to the scrying pool. And at this point, the next run we do should ideally be getting us the checkpoints. We would do a full walk through the space. We could fight this slime if we so choose. I need to fix its pathing. We'd get to here. because we have this cutscene completed, we should be able to bypass this. Oh, interesting. We don't have these flags set. I missed that in the preset. I'll update that after. I need to set up the mini slime with attack of opportunities, it looks like. Oh, that makes sense. This also needs to be updated because this one requires this cutscene that we modified. Okay. So yeah, so if we were to get to here, this would be the point where we would have completed all of those cutscenes. We're doing a full run, we're bypassing the adventurer, and then we get to this point, and hopefully we remember this very specific, distinct log. Oh, interesting. I need to assign a flag preset for this room. We'll do defeated by boar. And then this is missing the sword preset. Which one is that? If we hit lock here... There was a cutscene that we saw that should be flagged as completed, but wasn't. That'll be in G8, sword intro. This one is not properly completed. We're going to move it up here. Oh, that's unfortunate. It is actually set to completed, so I did enter the data correctly. So why is that triggering even though we should have that set? Huh, okay. We'll have to dig into that. Let's see if this works now. First time chatter. Keith, how are you doing today? Game is looking good. Seems like a turn-based RPG. Yes. Kind of like a tactical adventure game. A little bit of dungeon crawling kind of experience. A little bit of, honestly, a lot of things. A little bit of Hades mixed with like Etrian Odyssey kind of dungeon crawl exploration mixed with like kind of a Into the Breach or Final Fantasy Tactics type grid-based combat. It is coming together. We are getting into the areas where some of the art is a little bit less fleshed out and combat needs more work. That is the thing. I feel like of all the stuff we've done, just setting up my map so that the tiles actually like slide in feels like the thing that people always come in and comment on the most. Which I get. It's super neat. It's not that complicated though, really. I'm surprised that more people don't do it. Although I will be sad when it takes me another year and a half to finish this, and there'll be a bunch more cool games that maybe get there first, but... Yeah, no, it's really just popping up the tiles as they're revealed. Honestly, the trickier thing was getting Unity to handle rendering all of this stuff pixel perfect so that as it's sliding in, none of the pixels actually like shift or change, but it's always anchoring, so the image is always at the exact right position in world space that the camera renders it perfectly, if that makes any sense. Getting everything pixel perfect took a long time. Okay, so I think we're at the point now where we've done most of the tutorial loop. So we've got cutscenes leading from landing here, going into here, failing to fight this first slime, learning a little bit of world lore, coming in here, getting introduced to the adventurer, working our way all the way around from the south and looping up to the north, getting the adventurer's mace, ending up time warping, because there's also a Groundhog Day kind of aspect, Majora's Mask type thing. The goddess teleports us forward in time to the point where the Demon Lord resurrects. A Demon Lord destroys the world. The goddess then resets us. We come back in through, use the mace we picked up from the previous run to break down the bridge, come across and try to save the adventurer, but the boar is too strong for us, and we need a shield, it seems, is what we're trying to hammer home with the dialogue. We then come back and do one more run, ideally, if players figure it out, one more run where they work their way all the way around into the point where they get to this section where there will be a similar log, take them across, checkpoint, and then the game branches and lets you go north or south. I've still got to figure out how to handle some of that, but like the pathing and the routing. Was the pixel perfect Cinemachine thing, or did you manually do pixel perfect? I went down the Cinemachine route. It didn't work, to be honest. The way that I ended up doing it was honestly insanity. It took me many, honestly, almost a full year, but it just, well, not, okay, so everything I say is in the context that I work full-time as a game developer, so this is a hobby project. Right now we're on a 4-week break vacation where I'm basically streaming every day for the next, I think, 2.5 weeks I still have before my vacation ends, but everything's hobby-based. So when I say it took me a year, it's, you know, working on it on the weekends and occasionally on the weekdays. Very, very casual. But what I did was I actually went into my camera and changed the orthographic size of the camera like by 0.0001 until eventually I found that my 3D geometry was rendering correctly. I don't even know how to properly say that, but I basically zeroed in and brute forced my orthographic camera size. And then once I had the orthographic camera size figured out, I had to kind of brute force the billboarding so that the billboarding was exactly the right rotation. And then I built a bit of a system so that when things move, they have like a sprite destination. So we actually move oftentimes this individual object, and then we have a separate object that, based off of this rotation, tries to align to whatever the destination is, but will always anchor to a specific values. And then I also figured out that 1 pixel is 0.126 or 1.125 on the X and Z, but I had to brute force again and find that 1 pixel of movement is 0.5104. And each time I move up or down by this amount, it moves my object by 1 pixel, essentially. And this pixel alignment is doing a bunch of rounding to try and move it to that target position while never letting it be outside of those rounded values, essentially. It's stupid and nuts, but it works, and everything just kind of functions. But yeah, pixel alignment was a lot of brute forcing of orthographic camera values and a lot of brute forcing of just positional values. Took me a very long time. But I brute forced it. I'm not a graphics engineer. I have done some shader stuff in my past, but it just seemed easier to do this through just positional stuff. And it seemed easy, seemed like it would be quick, and it just took longer and longer until eventually it was just finished. But That being said, it was over time. Like that's the nice thing about it being a hobby project is I solved each piece of that. I solved the first part within a month, and then kind of did other stuff, working on the RPG, the damage formulas, a lot of that stuff. Then I'd come back, and then I'd look at something else, and then it would partly be working, and then like 6 months later, I would notice, oh, these trees are actually like, changing. The pixel perfect stuff isn't quite right still, and then tweak and change, and eventually, after a lot of iteration and a lot of time, it got to the point where you see it now. Yeah. I'm not sure what to do next, though. I feel like I've been very focused on trying to get to this point, and now I'm a little lost on next steps. Art's looking good too. Is it something you did or someone else? So this all started probably... I've been poking at like stuff for a long time, but 2020, when the pandemic hit, me and my wife, then girlfriend, decided we wanted to do this. I've been doing game development my whole career. Like now, at this point in time today, it's like 16 or 17 years I've been doing software engineering and then design. And so, did we get a Discord ping? If so, I'm sorry. That's going to be annoying for people in the future watching VODs. But anyways, so the Drixie, my wife, decided that she was like, what do you want to build a video game? And I was like, yes, I would love to. And somehow we got in the conversation of her doing art. She had done painting and physical medium, but she had basically over the past 5 years learned pixel art. That's the short version. I figured that it could be that. Cool. But yeah, so Drixie's been doing the art. She's been developing rapidly. Over 5 years, she's gotten quite good. I think the biggest hurdle was like just getting used to working in like these types of tools. It takes time to wrap your head around working within these types of engines. At first, it was a lot of me building like console apps to run to do a lot of the pixel type of tools and pipelines for her, because I've done a lot of work to make it so that it takes some of the mathy part out of it for her. But yeah, it's been good, and very proud of her. So she's done all the art. I will say the art is done through a little bit of magic. So like this character and this slime are 3D objects essentially that she modeled. This one, this guy I think came from a Unity asset store pack, a low poly slime or something. But we run them through Blender and then kind of pixelate them down, just mostly scaling them down. And then she does a bit of cleanup work. She still needs to do a lot more cleanup work on our main character. Like the eye and stuff moves around a little bit too much. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is also accelerated through doing it in 3D. And then that way we can grab like animations from like Mixamo and stuff and just apply them to the 3D model and then render out the character with that animation. And then, there we go, we're done. And then I also have made a tool that allows me to generate all of our animation stuff. So all of this animation controller was generated based off of the Asprite data. I'm just gonna go on a ramble for a second, mostly because I'm not sure what to do with the rest of the stream, honestly, but these are all just tagged for these animation frames, and I just export the sprite sheet along with a JSON from Asprite, and I use the JSON data about where all the frames are and about all the animation information to generate all of the animations in here. So when Drixie makes something, she just builds me that character, and then we just export it with the JSON, and then we have this animation controller I can just drag onto a character, and then that character's walking around in the world. The maps are built with a TSV editor. So all of these maps are just basically set up in spreadsheets. So I build them out like this normally, just like floor and then like center tree, back tree. This is just like different variations of the prop setups, and then download this, and then I can just run that through my tool. So if I come in here, let's take a look at this one. Oh, that's a bad one actually. That one's not a great example because it has a lot of custom stuff in it. But if I come into this one and I just do props and I do clear and then do new map generation, oh, it broke. Fun. That's fun. I've not made a map in a while. Technically, for the past couple of weeks, we've been working on cutscenes, and all my maps have been created, so we've kind of been filling it in. How did this break? Clear, new map generation. No errors, no messages at all. Just broken. Oh. This is the thing, though. I feel like it's... I was saying this earlier, but it feels like oftentimes I take a few steps forward, and because it's something I don't work on enough, we come across things where it's like, oh, this is just broken, and I probably did something dumb. It has all the props, but new map generation just... Oh! I wrote a dumb. Right. I was fixing something in previous old maps that were not set up correctly. Yeah, I had reworked this button temporarily to do something else. So yeah, so if I generate all the props here, and then if I go to my room and I hit generate from TSV, it'll just read the TSV file, in this case, file name Woods Room G4, and it just populates all of my props for me. Essentially, all of these props are manually editable, and we do plan on going in and like manually setting a lot of these. So that we can kind of have a more artistic eye to how things are set up. But for the time being, it's kind of nice to just be able to quickly generate a rough version of the spaces so that they're not just blank, but have some character to them. And then we can come in later and like add custom props, add a fence, and then like, you know, just add more detail with more landmark type pieces, if that makes any sense. Well, that's me showing off. Like I said, we're trying to get to chapter 1, quote unquote, complete, which is what I'm hoping to put out as like a private Steam demo to let people kind of play through by the end of my vacation here. I've gotten... When is the 19th? January 19th is, I guess, about 19 days away. So I'm hopeful that we can still get there. I do feel like I'm going slower than I would like, but hopefully now that we're at a point where we're out of this main tutorial section and we get to this point, I'm hoping I can let combat do more of the heavy lifting, but we also do need to do more combat pass stuff. Maybe we can take a look at that real quick. If we go into our kind of like firing range, quote unquote, we can do a little bit of testing around the enemies, because I feel like I both need to do a behavioral pass on the boar, because the boar needs to have like a bit of a charge behavior. And I had a charge ability a while ago, but we're going to need to create a new one. right now the slimes are taking 3 hits. No, I love the questions. We're coming up on the end of today. Bring up the balsamic. Sorry for the flashbang. Should have warned folks. But we're going to finish up today, and then I'm off. I'm not off. I'm going to be doing stuff off camera for January 1st and 2nd, and then Drixie will be joining me on Saturday for a pixel art stream. And then before I had this vacation, I've been doing Sundays every single week, even if I am working normally. And so those days are pretty set in stone. So we're just ending up here. We're only going for another 15 minutes. And then, honestly, I'm pretty exhausted. We got a lot done today. So I appreciate the questions. As for the question itself, gameplay, is it completely turn-based or some real-time elements? So it is completely turn-based, but I have this concept of charge time. So this enemy has a 4 with this like little green crystal icon. This is kind of telegraphing what it's going to do without giving you exact information. You do need to kind of learn and memorize the different attack patterns essentially from the enemies, is my idea. Essentially, I'm trying to do, like, Elden Ring has this idea, like Dark Souls, whatever FromSoft's game you want to think about, has like almost this fighting game element of you can see from the enemy's animation when they're going to hit you, and you can like try and dodge out of the way, and you know certain animations are going to have certain punish windows after that attack is over. And I'm trying to see if I can replicate that in turn-based. Some success, some failures, but essentially what's happening here is this green crystal is essentially representing the animation that this character would be doing, but we're not actually telling you what it's going to do. But if you see it enough, you would eventually start to figure it out. But it has a 4, and that's essentially how many ticks on our clock before the enemy actually strikes. Your abilities also have ticks related to them, so Slash has 3 ticks, Bash has 5, and so if I perform a Slash attack here, we see the charge bar above our head goes 3 ticks, and at the same time the enemy ticked down. And now it has 1 tick until it goes. So at this point, I could either do a defend, which is going to be a 2 tick, or I could do another Slash for 3. If I do a defend, then I'll take half damage from the attack. If I can line up, I just debug skipped a turn, which will not be a thing a player can do. I want to have the usage of turns be very meaningful, but for demonstration purposes, I've debug skipped a turn. If I line up my defend perfectly with the enemy's attack so that I would defend on the exact turn they attack me, I parry, preventing all the damage and doing a little bit of stagger. So the enemy has 2 bars. Drixie is doing a pass on this health bar. It needs to be bigger and redesigned, but also it can't be too much bigger because we don't have a lot of space. But regardless, this has a health bar and a stagger bar. So as I hit this enemy, eventually the stagger bar fills all the way up, and then it has 10 turns before it becomes unstaggered. And my abilities do bonus damage while the enemy is staggered. Slash does very little bonus damage, but Bash has a really high bonus damage multiplier, so it ends up doing like 54 to the little slime. And so as you get into bigger enemies, the pattern starts to be a little bit more of Slash for high stagger and then Bash for big hits. I feel like these early enemies, I'm liking this flow. Like the little slime, you can kind of just kill with slashes, and I think that's going to be perfectly reasonable for the first few enemies in the game. And then when we get to the bigger slimes, we're going to introduce the concept in a really simple way. You hit it a couple times with slash, it gets staggered. You hit it once with bash, you kill it. I think when we get to the boar, that's where I need to do this behavioral pass I was mentioning earlier, where I'd like to have it so the boar does like a charge attack, and when it telegraphs that charge attack, if you can like time your defend at the right time, you could stagger it. Like I've made it so certain enemies have increased stagger amounts by certain attacks or reduced. So when you do a parry on a boar, it has like quadruple damage or quadruple stagger, whereas slash has like 50%. And so the idea is that you want to really time your parries so that you can end up keeping the enemy kind of in a staggered state, essentially. it's not fully working. Like you can see here, there's kind of an infinite loop you can get into with this guy where you can kind of keep him permanently staggered and he can never get an opportunity to do anything. I want to find ways to break that up. I also have concepts of like abilities that cause him to move rather than just attack. And I want to see if I can find ways of like having him sprint away and then like figuring out the distance you need to be at in order to get the good parry. I don't know. There's ideas, but whether or not they work, who knows? And then the next level thing is eventually you unlock second tier abilities. So if you hold shift on the keyboard, but this will eventually all be controller. I hopefully that's clear. It would be like hold left bumper and you can see your second tier abilities, and these cost these like crystals underneath your health. And so Venom Slash has like more stagger ability than a regular slash and does a bit more damage, but it costs these gems essentially. So these are gained from staggering the enemy and from just moving around the world, which is a concept from, I think, the Chocobo dungeon game. There's a Chocobo dungeon crawler that has a similar kind of concept. But if you spend these gems, you can kind of get bigger, more powerful attacks in, essentially. And as we progress through the skill grid, so there's kind of like a stat skill grid, kind of sphere grid, Final Fantasy X idea in here as well. As you upgrade your skills, you'll eventually unlock those next tier abilities, and then those ones have their own skill grids, which then unlock their own abilities. And so you'll eventually be able to kind of equip different ones in this secondary RB menu, and then this main one is kind of your primary toolkit. So kind of think about it almost like, I don't know, my brain goes to like a MOBA type idea. Like this is your base toolkit. You will always have slash, defend, bash, and then move is something I was prototyping but is going to go away. This will probably end up being some sort of ranged attack that's like a base ranged attack that you have access to. But then you can use your shift or RB or LB, whatever, to kind of do your bigger mega hit attacks and try and weave those in when appropriate to try and get the enemy staggered or do big damage when they're staggered. I will say again, I don't know if this is going to work. That's the big thing though. I know I just did a good job, or hopefully a good job, selling the idea, but I don't know. I've done game design for a number of years, but a lot of the stuff I've done is not RPGs, but I love RPGs, and professionally I haven't gotten to work with them. And so a lot of this has been me learning and experience and trying stuff, and you can tell I've mashed a lot of different game concepts together. I don't know if they're going to work because they're very disparate, and there's not a lot of examples that do all of these things all at the same time. But I feel like the last 6 months or so from like the summer, like I did a playtest in the spring and it just really bummed me out because combat wasn't working. But then a few weeks ago, Drixie and I really sat down and discussed like, how do we make this work? And like the stagger meter stuff just ended up being the thing that was like, I think this can bring the timing systems and everything else together. And since we've added this stagger meter, I feel like it's finally given like the next level for it to finally feel like it's working, I guess. But this is still mostly just working on in this very simple setup with just a couple of hits to kill an enemy. Can I get enemy behaviors and attacks set up in such a way that encourages you to want to try different combinations of abilities and get your, does parrying become overpowered? I don't know. Where does the end game for this type of system go? Does it have a tail that will actually end up winning, or end up working out? I don't know. But I'm excited to continue to try and figure it out. Honestly, just waxing poetically a little bit on it has been nice to kind of finish out the stream today, because I feel like the last week and a half I've been just like, I'm going too slow. Like I have this time off, I've got to utilize it, I've got to go quicker, things are taking too long, bugs are coming up, I'm spending too long on bugs, I'm spending too long on polish, things aren't polished enough, I'm spending too much time on content and not enough time on polish. Like it just feels like I can't win with myself, and just like chatting it out, it's like, no, I think it's going to work. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We didn't even get into the timer either. So the other thing that kind of makes it so that, like, if you're fighting this guy, you can just defend your way through or do actions to try and, like, you know, spend a bunch of time getting perfect damage in so that you never take any damage but always do a ton of damage. You can do that, but it's going to spend a lot more of your time. And there's kind of a 30-second hero concept built in here as well. So as you're moving around and exploring all of those maps I was showing earlier, eventually you will run out of time. And when time runs out, you die essentially, and you go back to the goddess realm, where the goddess gives you the opportunity to, like, level up a little bit, and then you can go back out and do another run where you spawn back in at the last checkpoint that you found, and then progress forward, fight some more enemies, and explore, trying to figure out what you need to do next narratively. But there's kind of this time pressure of, like, if you take too long, the demon lord resurrects and destroys the world, you get sent back to the goddess realm, and you have to start that day over again, or that chunk of time, the time loop you're currently in. So, like, that's also an aspect of the combat that I'm trying to have more value. Like, it'd be cool, I think, to have, like, really powerful attacks that maybe are instant but cost a bunch of time, so that, like, you absorb a bunch of time to do that action, but it, like, is going to kill everything on the screen. And, like, if I can kind of make something like that work, I think there's some interesting player experiences there as well, about, like, you know, how do you decide when to do those big attacks, or do you use those big attacks, or do you just be efficient with your time? Do you use your health as a resource so you take more damage because you're not playing optimally, but you're maybe wanting to conserve more time to try and get to a specific area with more time? I don't know. There's a lot of mechanics, arguably too many. Any other questions? I think I have rambled my way out of the last 15 minutes of the stream, or my way through it. I think I'm pretty good to call it. As I called out earlier, we will be back Saturday with a Drixie stream where we'll be doing some art, usually picture-in-picture, essentially. Kind of showing her screen as well as mine and swapping back and forth. Those are fun. And then Sunday we'll be back for another 2-hour stream from 2 to 4, and then 6 to 8 PST on Sunday. And then, like I said, we'll be doing this for the next couple of weeks too. So until January 19th, lots of streams, hopefully lots of progress, fingers crossed. I'm going to call it here. Thanks for the chats. Hello, new faces. And I know there's a couple of you lurking. I appreciate the lurkers. I'm going to try and make some more progress on combat and stuff, and we'll see where we're at come Saturday. For now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.